Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. I'm Brian, this is Brandon, this is Mohammed from Titanfall 2. Let's talk Titanfall 2.
Let's do it.
You are the single player producer, right? Or
No, I'm a senior single player designer.
Senior creator president of single player.
Exactly.
Either way, long story short, there's a single player now. Let's get to the most important part here. I love the first Titanfall. There was some story stuff kind of hidden around the edges of the multiplayer game.
Literally in the corner.
In the corner. But now there's a dedicated single player mode, which is super cool. And that's it. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, this time around, your whole team is you have two teams, one for multiplayer, one for single player, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And this whole narrative, this whole new story is all new for you guys. So, what was it like, bringing single player to Titanfall?
So it all started with community, right? We definitely love our community. We listen to our fan base. One of the things they wanted was a single player campaign. But after coming off the first game, we have these great mechanics and these great gameplay scenarios. But what you don't want to do is just pick up all those mechanics and plop them into what I would call a stereotypical shooter these days, because that just wouldn't work, right? What we want to do is craft a single player that really shows off our mechanics and our gameplay.
Yeah.
And to do that took a long time.
Well, it's unique, right? Like
it's
the
very
wall
unique.
running, the bouncing, it's so fluid and fast and frenetic, really.
Yeah, and it took a while to be like, what is a Titanfall single player? Because there's nothing else to go off of, right? And what we ended up doing was all the designers went off and they made hundreds and hundreds of these like little pieces of gameplay that showed off like, a little part of our game, while keeping the soul of what a Titanfall game is. And in the end, what we found out was we still didn't have an answer to the question, what is a Titanfall level? Because they're so varied and so unique, all the levels that encompass the whole game. But what we ended up coming up with was a very unique experience that has both the big action set pieces, but also exploration, puzzle solving, slow moments, narrative moments.
Yeah.
It's a very, very varied experience.
You're also moving away from some of the sort of kind of grittier militaristic environments, and you were just in this like lush jungle with waterfalls, and I'm like, this looks like a Zelda level. Like, this is so cool. Like, it's so cool to see this robot fighting game, or game where you fight with and against robots. Not to be reductive, but jump into completely new environments like that. Like right here, with these mountains in the background and stuff like that. It's all very beautiful.
Yeah, so one of the caveats that we went into making this game was we wanted what we're calling the postcard effect.
Yeah.
We want to create environments that when you see them, you're like, oh, I want to go there. I want to explore it. And the fact that we were also in a sci-fi universe really lent itself to just exploring what we could do with the landscapes and just how out there we could go and how beautiful we could make it at the same time.
So that's really interesting, actually. The universe that you were describing is actually very big and detailed and defined, but you didn't really get much of that in the first game. So can you sort of give people who maybe are just now coming into Titanfall sort of a primer of where we're at in the story and where Titanfall 2 picks up? Sure,
not a problem. So basically, there's two factions. There's the IMC, which is basically this big industrial, money-hungry faction that basically colonizes worlds, fracks their planets for resources. And at the edge of the frontier, there's basically a group of rebels who call themselves the militia, who are basically trying to fight back the IMC, take their homeworlds back, and basically bring peace to the frontier. So this story picks up after the events of the first game, where the militia had a victory at Demeter, and they're kind of pushing the IMC back to the edge of the frontier, and they find this research planet called Typhon. And they are going to go and investigate it, but it turns out to be much more than just a research planet.
And this is Typhon right now?
This is Typhon right now, yes.
Jungle-y kind of environment.
Well, the whole game takes place on Typhon, actually.
Oh,
awesome.
Great. Okay, cool. And so the protagonist in this game, you have sort of a dual protagonist thing going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah. we were talking a little bit about this earlier, like sort of a Shane Black kind of fun dynamic going on between them.
Yeah, for sure. So you play as Jack Cooper,
Yeah.
and he's a militia grunt. He's actually a nobody, but he has dreams and aspirations of becoming a pilot. And pilots are like the ultimate badasses of this universe, right? They're the ones who get into pilots. They have the jump kits. They have all the best weapons and all the best toys. You have a friend who's Captain Lastimosa, who is a pilot, and he's not really supposed to be taking you under his wing, but he is. And he's kind of teaching you the ways and how to become a pilot when basically all hell breaks loose and you get, thrust into a battle before you expected to get there. Yeah. And then the rest of the game is basically you fulfilling your dream of becoming a pilot with a Titan.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about BT then?
Yeah, so BT is the other half, BT-7274, BT for short. He's a Vanguard class Titan in our story, in our world. He's the first Titan that the militia have created for themselves.
So he's unique. He's one of a kind.
He's one of a kind. He's also the most advanced Titan in the universe. Basically, the reason he's so advanced is when he comes across another one of the Titans that, like, for example, you'll see in multiplayer, like Scorch or Ion, and he defeats them, he can basically pick up their weapon, like, basically copy all their abilities, and now he has that for the rest of the single-player campaign.
So he
I love that.
Yeah, he effectively.
It's like very Mega Man.
Actually, it is.
So he effectively changes classes on the fly. Right?
Yeah, you can change classes on the fly. You keep everything you've learned, and like the best thing is you'll encounter different parts of the game where maybe one kind of playstyle will be a little bit more effective than another, depending on what you're facing off against. And it's all about how you want to play it and how you want to approach that fight.
So in the game, the antagonist, I don't know how much you're talking about right now, but you and I were speaking about this group called the Apex Predators.
Yeah, so basically the IMC, like I said, they're just a big conglomerate, right? And they have hired this mercenary group, which is like the best of the best, but they're also just completely immoral. They only work for the highest bidder, right? And they're called the Apex Predators. And if you play the first one, you'll actually recognize one of the characters. He's Kuben Blisk.
Right.
Yeah, so he broke off from the IMC and created this mercenary group, and he leads it. And he's just ruthless, and he's great. The voice actor that plays him plays him to perfection. Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So I noticed as well other members of the Apex Predators, they all kind of have like their own cool, like you were saying with Mega Man, right? They all have their own cool like little personality and their motif and abilities and all that. So how does that play into it? Like you encounter them sporadically through the game?
Yeah, so basically, there's a whole group of these Apex Predators, and they, like you were saying, they all have like their own backstory and they have their own personality and everything. And to even further that, they're all pilots, so they all have a unique bond with their Titan as well. And their Titans are also unique, and they have like their own set abilities. So each Apex Predator you'll meet will be like a different combat situation, and he'll have his own personality, and it'll have its own like kind of gameplay to it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you worked on the No Russian level.
Yes.
In Modern Warfare 2.
I did.
Which is, I think, probably one of the most controversial levels in video game history. I'll just go out and say it.
Sure.
Now, you're playing with a different toy box here. You've got giant robots, so it's a little harder to do something as tonally serious because it's not completely grounded in reality. But does it give you an opportunity to come close to something like that, telling the story here?
So it's really, it's about like the kind of story you want to tell, right? And we did, when we worked on Call of Duty for so long, we definitely did like the, military modern shooter, and we did the World War II shooter, and we did the very, very serious tone. And what we wanted to do with this one is still have those serious moments and still have those like just deep moments, but juxtapose those with, some levity. And that's actually where the relationship between you and BT comes into play.
There's this really great moment where they crack jokes at each other, where the BT goes to throw him across the ravine and says, there's a 30% chance you're just going to end up maimed and murdered.
Right, yeah. And he's got this like really just dry robotic humor, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And like, that was definitely something we wanted to bring out, right? And the best way to do that was to give BT a voice and a personality. And then obviously we were like, well, let's let you talk to him.
Yeah.
Right. So so throughout the game, like just you'll be able to like, have these dialogue choices basically, which will they'll allow you to kind of create the story you want to create with BT, the kind of personality and the back and forth you want to have with him.
Is it more just about that sort of creation and that relationship rather than, well, if I say yes, he does one thing, if I say no, he does a different thing?
Well, he won't, like, it won't affect what I'll call the through line.
Sure.
It won't affect, like, if you pick this, you won't play a different level. But there are dialogue trees that will branch off if you pick one versus the other. Like, you do have a choice in, like, the kind of, discussions you'll have with them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, right now I think we're taking a look at some multiplayer. I mean, the big new thing on the block this time around is single player, but what have you guys done to multiplayer? Because multiplayer in the first game was so great. It was so fantastic. It feels good. It is fast and fluid and really, really fierce to get into. But this time around, I know you guys have made some different changes as well.
Yeah, we made a lot of changes. I mean, so the core we didn't want to lose. You know what Titanfall is. It's all about that bond between pilot and Titan, how together you're unstoppable. Yeah. And on the other end, like just the ease and the fluidity of the motion model, right? Like how easily you can pick up and start wall running and double jumping, but how that's also hard to master.
Right.
Right. And we took that and we took what the community said, which was they wanted more, right? Like they like the last game, like they felt like they burned through it really quick. They wanted more unlocks, more abilities, and also more depth. And we just kind of like gave them exactly what they wanted, right? So not only do we have just a breadth of different like abilities, weapons, unlocks, customization, like all kinds of things. It's gonna take you forever to unlock everything in this game. There's a really, really deep and very interesting progression system that I don't think I've actually seen before in another game. And then on top of that, with all this breadth, we went deep too. So every ability, every weapon, everything you can do in the game, what we tried to do is you can pick it up super easy. You can just start playing with it and having fun, but there's a lot of depth to it. And the mastery level is going to take people a long time to get. Just take the grappling hook, for example.
Right.
Have you guys played with the grappling hook?
So I have actually, and there's a physics to it, and this weight to it.
There is
it's
this weight
really
to it.
hard to grab it at first, but then you start getting the hang of it. I mean, if you run and throw it at a wall, it'll pull you up there, right?
It'll stick to anything.
So yeah, everyone has that baseline understanding of I can go from here to there, but to get the physics down and the flow, in one of the trailers you saw a guy hooked it to a silo and like whipped up into the air. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that.
Right. So like you said, like you can point it at anything, and I mean anything, even other Titans and other pilots.
Other players,
yeah. And it'll pull players, and you can punch them in the face, or you can like link to your own Titan and like zip right to it.
Yeah.
That's going to set up a lot of like, what the. Did he just do that to me? did I die like that? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, so
It
the
did
beautiful
to me as
Yes.
the beautiful thing is though, like, what you saw in that trailer, what you can do is, wall run off a wall, build momentum, link it over here, and then just swing around and completely change your momentum in your direction halfway, like across the level.
All right, Mohammed, when can people play Titanfall 2?
So we're having the multiplayer tech test, and that actually is open to the public this Friday. And
Awesome.
it's got a 10-level cap, and we offer 2 modes and 2 levels. And then we're going to be gathering a bunch of information from that tech test. We're hoping that we just get millions of people on this thing, hopefully to break it, so we can fix all the problems now before release date, right?
Yeah.
And then next weekend after that, we're going to bring it back, increase the level cap to 15, and offer another mode and another level.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So three modes, 3 maps in total.
In total, yes.
Cool.
So get out there and go break Titanfall 2. They're telling you to do that. Go break that game, and then they'll make it even better.
Yeah.
Mohammed, thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you
super
so
excited
much.
for this game, especially because it's coming to PS4 now.
Yes.
That's my baby right
Yeah.
there. We're going to be covering video games right here for Gamescom at IGN, so don't move.